there, welcome to another episode of All Things Mindful. And I am quite embarrassed to go through my past episodes and realize that the last episode I recorded was about 4 months ago. So somehow I got distracted and I got busy and I forgot to record more episodes. And that is quite sad because I do have many things that I want to share. So I've decided to become more disciplined when it comes to recording episodes on this podcast channel because, well, it's enjoyable and it's always fun to do something which feels enjoyable and fun to you. So today I'm going to talk about the 5 types of abundance which you have and which you may not be aware of. And the reason why I was inspired to create or record this episode was because I was listening to an interview with Daryl Anka. He is a channeler. So, in case this sounds a little out there or, woo woo for you, what I do is that sometimes I may or may not resonate with everything that they say or with everything that they do, but they will usually have some nuggets of information or some wisdom which they are able to share. So, usually I will just take what resonates with me and just leave what doesn't. So, if channelers are something which you are not comfortable with, then maybe it's okay to just take the information which you can relate to and ditch the rest. That's kind of how we learn new things. I know this is going a bit off tangent, but there are many, I won't say influencers, but there are many experts out there, and people can be really critical towards experts. People can be questioning everything they say and do, but the thing is, experts are not perfect themselves. Sometimes they do or say the wrong things at the wrong time. Maybe they were just feeling off that day and they say something wrong or do something which you do not like. And then the next thing we do, we start canceling that person, even though he or she has a lot of wisdom to offer. So I don't think that attitude is very helpful. I think keeping an open mind is, and not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I think that is the correct phrase. Keeping an open mind and understanding that every person out there is a teacher for us. And we are also teachers to some people in our lives. Being aware that we can learn something from everybody is a very useful attitude to have. So, anyway, that's a mouthful. All right, so we are going to get into this topic because I'm sure you want to know what are the different types of abundance and wealth in life which you have but you are not aware of. All right, so the first form of abundance which you may not be aware of is having the wealth of time and freedom. For example, maybe you are unemployed right now. You're looking for work, or maybe you've started a business and it's taking some time to take off. Or maybe you are just figuring out what to do. Our society tends to view this stage in a very negative way. You're just wasting time, you're being unproductive. But one way to look at it is to realize this is the time where you have an abundance of time and freedom to do what you want. And if you are looking for a job or if you are working on your business, this freedom time period may not last forever. Once you have a full time job, that freedom of time, the abundance of time is most likely going to be gone, and that freedom will be gone as well. So, unless you intend to not work for a very long time, this stage is not going to last forever. So, I would say enjoy the current stage, appreciate the time and the freedom and the energy that you have right now, even though society is going to view it very negatively. But just bear in mind that this stage is likely not going to last forever. So, just be present and enjoy what you have right now. And this reminds me of someone I know who was taking a break from work. She was taking a 1 year's break from work. And after about 3 months, she got really restless. And she told me, I feel very unproductive. I feel like I need to start a side hustle or something. I feel very restless. I feel useless. She said that. And I told her that, well, your break is only for a year. It's not going to last forever. And you're going to return to work next year. So why not just enjoy this time period that you have? This luxury is not going to be here for you all the time. So why not just enjoy this year? And I think that kind of changed the way she was thinking. And I'm glad to somehow inspire her to look at things differently. So that's just one example of wealth that you may have, the wealth of time. The second form of wealth or abundance that you may have and tend to overlook is healthy relationships and friendships. If you have non judgmental friends, if you have supportive friends, these are the people that you have to hold dear to yourself, because non-judgmental people are very hard to find. This is something I just realized recently. It's very hard to find people who are very open and accepting towards other people's quirks and preferences and ways of thinking, which may not be the same as yours. So if you know someone who's not judgmental and open-minded, keep those relationships close, because they are quite rare. So healthy relationships and healthy friendships are a form of abundance. And if you are married and you have a very healthy relationship with your in-laws, that is a form of abundance as well, because we know that there are many people out there who do not get along well with their in-laws, or have toxic in-laws or toxic family members. So if you do have healthy relationships with the people around you, I think that is a form of abundance not everybody has. So we can bear that in mind. The third form of wealth and abundance, which you may have and not be aware of, is having good health and well-being. So I think many of us know at least 3 people out there who are trading their mental and physical well-being for income. This is a very common thing. We know that. They do earn a comfortable income, but they have to trade so much of their health and their mental well-being in exchange for that. Sometimes it just can't be avoided. Sometimes it's a rite of passage that they have to go through. Sometimes it's just something that they have to learn in life, or whatever it is. So your wealth and your well-being are incredibly important, because you can have all sorts of abundance, healthy relationships, all sorts of freedom in this world. But if you do not have good health or well-being, it's all useless, because you do not have the energy or capacity to maintain good relationships. You do not have the energy to maintain your job or work that you love. You don't have the energy to remain a positive person. So, in other words, your health and well being are incredibly crucial when it comes to calculating how much wealth or abundance you have in your life. And you may also realize that people your age, it doesn't matter how old or how young you are, you may know people around your age who are falling sick, or going in and out of hospital, or going for medical checkups regularly. So if you realize that you are generally healthy and your well-being is taken care of, it is something to be grateful about, and it is a form of abundance, and take good care of it as much as we can, even though it is not always easy in this modern lifestyle that we live in. The fourth kind of abundance that you may have but may have overlooked is having a healthy childhood, or a quote unquote normal childhood, because this shapes who you become today. And if you're someone who is educated, maybe you have a degree or a diploma, or you have achieved great things in your education or in your work life, or whatever it is, sometimes it can be attributed to the healthy childhood that you have. So you may have the quote unquote luxury of parents who know how important education is for you when you were young, and they prioritize that when you were young. Or you have a family which has a healthy relationship, which allows you to focus on your studies and your hobbies and friendships when you were young. Or perhaps you have parents who are well connected, or parents who work really, really hard. Or maybe you have intelligent parents who realize that having an education is important, and they make sure that you are disciplined enough when you were young to get that degree or diploma or whatever, so that you can be successful in life. When you have a healthy or quote unquote normal childhood, it is something for you to be grateful for. And this is a form of abundance, because we know not everybody has this. And because we know that there are people who grow up in chaotic families, for example. They may not be adults who can make good decisions, or maybe they may not be able to reach certain heights in life, which someone who has intelligent parents can. And this reminds me that it's good for us not to look down on people who do not have a high education, because they may not have the family structure which encourages that. So they may have families who are toxic or not very healthy relationships, and that leads them to not prioritize or not be able to concentrate on their studies when they were younger, for example. This somehow makes me wonder whether whether 100% meritocracy really exists. Because if you look at people who are very influential, or who have attained lots of traditional success in their lives, if you dig deeper, you will realize that they have well-connected parents, well-resourced parents, generally normal childhoods when they were growing up. and they have access to good things and lots of abundance when they were younger. So this makes it easier for them to achieve great things in their lives. So that is one form of abundance you may have, and we may tend to overlook or forget. And the fifth kind of abundance which you may have and not be aware of is being a likable person. We all know people who have friends from all walks of life. They can be friends with anybody. They are well liked. If they ask for help, people help them. If they want to chat, if they need support, people offer them support. Being a likable person to me is a form of wealth as well, because when you have lots of healthy relationships around you, they can add a lot of richness and joy and happiness in your life. And we tend to forget that joy and happiness is also a form of abundance. So having good relationships to allow you to create a life full of joy and abundance and support when you need it is a rich life, I would say. That is also a form of abundance which we may forget, being a likable person. You may be thinking, well, how do I become a likable person? Well, relationships are usually a two-way thing. For example, if you are someone who offers support to people, generally people will offer that to you if you need it. Most importantly, it's good to remember that relationships have to be a two-way thing, but we do not self-sacrifice for each other, because self-sacrificing is a toxic trait in its own, and that's another episode for another time. Being a likable person does require us to give and take and forgive each other often, and also offer things in return, and asking for things and offering things in return without the self-sacrifice, and respecting each other's boundaries, and being very understanding and accepting of other people, and hopefully they will be also accepting of our quirks and preferences. Being a likable person is pretty much a two-way street without the self-sacrifice on both parts. That is one way for you to be a likable person in case you want that kind of abundance in your life. So I think I've described 5 types of abundance which you may have in your life and not be aware of. And maybe now is the time for you to just reflect and think, which of these 5 do you have in your life right now? And maybe you can go one step further and write down other forms of abundance which you have, but I did not mention. These are just 5 basic ones, and I do not even include money in my list. Maybe you can tell me after listening to this episode, you're reminded of certain forms of abundance which you have, but you forgot about or you overlook. You can leave them in the comment section, and I'll be glad to hear from you. All right, so that's all for this episode, and I will see you in my next episode. Goodbye.